The stage manager, a portly beast of a man in rimless glasses, ordered the musicians to take their seats and remove their ID badges for the duration of the performance. Secret Service agents moved silently into position among the stations of the cross, and someone pulled open the main doors to invite in the cold air, and several hundred dignitaries and hangers-on. The floor stopped rumbling. The heater turned off so the microphones wouldn't pick up the vibration. The rows of pews divided by a center aisle filled up fast. The stained glass windows threw prismatic colors at the faces and starched shirts of the quickly assembling congregation. Tickets for the event ran in the 100,000 forint range and didn't include seat assignments. So tuxedoed gentlemen elbowed each other to get up front. Murmurs rippled through the crowd and orchestra as various celebrities and prominent members of Parliament made themselves visible among the three reserved and cordoned off rows closest to the musicians. Red, white, and green banners hung from the ceiling and swayed amid the commotion. Is that loud enough? Melanie placed her violin and bow on her lap and shook the blood down into her fingers. Warm, stony reverb filled every corner, each one lit up for reasons of national security and national television. She couldn't see Nanette. She wished she had thought to use the bathroom. Some kind of dream self came removed from her body and hovered near the stage. She looked at herself there, here, playing the violin, and then she floated over the heads of the crowd and ventured through the front doors of the church. She followed the path of the river north to Market Bridge and went down to the island, an oasis of groves and fields and footpaths. She sped over the tops of the trees. Colors appeared exceptionally vivid, yet somehow misaligned, like she was wearing a pair of wine-red lenses. She arrived at an enormous oak, one she had never seen before, and recognized it somehow as her home. She belonged in it. She joined a flock of eagles and hawks amid the branches, which elsewhere also contained bats and owls and pelicans and parrots of every color. It was the woodpeckers, however, that got her attention. Hundreds of them, woodpeckers of every variety, tapping an intricate tribal rhythm. It was mesmerizing. The immediate sense of comfort overwhelmed her, like the familiarity of her own clean bed after a long trip. The voice of her violin joined the choral din of birdsong and roused her from her trance. Looking down, she nearly screamed, shaken not by the height, though she sat far higher than the top of any natural tree, but by a series of human bodies. Black men dangled from the branches on ropes. They had been lynched and left to feed the amassed birds. The tops of their heads bobbed and swung heavily. Their dying moans sounded like upright basses and antique cellos tuned to some ungodly foreign scale. They accused Melanie of complicity. She fled back to Batjani Square as the string quartet finale approached, much too suddenly. She was going to be late for her entrance. Daughter was dying from a painful gangrenous infection. She tuned her pegs down by another corner tone as required, but she didn't stop there. Instead, Melanie threw the strings wholly out of whack, even compared to the other atonal elements of Harkey's precious composition, and she deviated wildly from the score. Juji stirred in her seat, but didn't risk looking over and losing her place. When her part ended and she stopped playing, the pronounced pocket of silence made Melanie's violin that much louder and more jarring. It sounded beautiful, alive, and natural in a way that she could only think of as sexual. The first violins in front of her began to rock in their seats, visibly distraught. The conductor eyed her entire section, trying to find the offending party. More instruments grew hushed on cue, like confused voices silencing themselves. The singers retook their seats. Melanie ignored the score in front of her. The cello and viola died slowly, until only the timpani and her own screeching violin remained, as out of tune as an upright elementary school piano. Disbelief passed through the orchestra, followed by something like anger, now directed fully at her, but her bow kept seesawing away. She looked for the timpanist, but couldn't see him. He struggled to keep up, to vamp along with Melanie and cover up the disaster in progress, but the combined effect soon breached that thin membrane that separates music and noise. It sounded siren-like, as natural as childbirth and just as messy. Even after the timpanist gave up, Melanie continued to play solo, exercising herself of demons, real and imagined. Filthy, infected sounds gushed from her body and every tone she dragged from her violin and ragged bow purged her of another sin until, at long last, she slid to one long, breathless glissando, then stopped.
Nice.